exactly how to manage your resources. And last but very important, you have to know how to reduce the lag. So you have to shoot as few bullets as possible, and you have to know exactly how to get as few enemies on screen at the same time and all that jazz. And that's it looks like just a regular shoot and platform type of game when it's actually just insane about like time saving and I forgot to synchronize the yeah, I said I was going to launch the race both on Discord and with our tool, and I forgot to do that on Discord. My bad.
Oh no!
It might have some delay, but the race is started, and level 1 is pretty short, and it's a good introduction. We got already a heavy machine gun that we are going to try, as I say, to use as little as possible. And we have quite a lot of those moments where you are stuck because before you kill a lot of enough enemies on screen or said enemies on screen, and once you know exactly how many hand grenades you need for each wall, you will just progress fine. And yeah, it's already done for Zoff. Very nice first mission. Caltris got to the boss a bit later, and Vandal is doing fantastic also. Sablier died once already. As you can see, dying is not too bad. It's not a huge punition. You just start exactly where you died, but you lose all your resources and you lose way more time that you want to admit. It's pretty crazy. So the guy who dies the most is going to a lot of the time be last, because the better you get, the less you die, and the less you die, the better resources and weapons you get, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's not the sort of back to the checkpoint, redo what you did sort of time loss. It is a major loss of resources. I mean, of course, when you do have to wait out the continue screen, like we just saw for Keltris, that does eat up a bit of time. But your little pea shooter pistol is so much worse than a lot of the other weapons you can pick up, particularly flame shotgun rockets. So if you are in a sequence where you are using one of those weapons, and you are relying on having one of those weapons, and suddenly you don't have it, that is a huge problem. And I think probably even more so is these bombs. You get 10 bombs when you come back from a death. Keltris just missing that bridge there. Players can opt to wait a little bit so that they don't have to jump off the bridge as it collapses, but he went for it and it didn't quite work out. But the bombs are a huge source of damage, and you could stock up on them pretty good in a couple situations, have 20, 30 even, for certain boss fights, and a death at a bad time will cost you a ton of those. It does give you the 10, but 10 won't cut it in a lot of situations.
Yeah, so for damage-wise, a bullet usually goes for 10 damage, a grenade goes for 100, so it's not that more much, but shooting 10 bullets can actually take quite a lot of time. And a shotgun is the most efficient weapon and deals 400 damage. So and usually like a tank is about 600 to 800 HP, and bosses can go up to the equivalent of 30 bombs. So you need a lot of resources. As you can see on Zoff's screen, he has 33 bombs, 14 shotgun shots, and yeah, that's just what he needs to kill that boss fast. So it's, you need to know exactly how to manage your resources. And here he dies with 22 bombs, which will slow down the fight quite significantly. Oh no, that's okay. He just got a couple of shots left, so that was not too bad. But as you can see, the game can go wrong very, very fast, and the Zoff took quite a good lead here, already beating the second boss, as Sablier, Vandal, and Keltris are on the same screen.
Yeah, the other players are pretty close. They're in the metal slug that the game is known for, which I didn't know for a long time in this game. It was just, the tank you get in, but that is the metal slug. It is, it's not, super powerful compared to some of the other things at your disposal. Often in a speedrun, you end up doing a slug crash and just throwing it into something for a bunch of damage. But there are some sequences where obviously not getting hit in in one-hit kills in the tank is pretty good, especially if you're a newer runner. Like honestly, all our runners are competing today. Well, I don't know. Maybe they had some past experience speedrunning, but they knew they were going to be competing in this game just about 10 days ago. So still quite fresh to the game, and having a couple extra hits by rolling around in a tank, not too bad, especially. Or in spite of, rather, the fact that the tank will usually cause quite a bit of lag. So it's speed, safety sort of trade-off.
Yeah, it is. You don't want to use it if you want to go as fast as possible, but you definitely want to use it if you want to be safer. Or, oh god, Zoff just took a grenade. I lost one, barely. This is one of those very tricky situations where if you move exactly correctly, the screen will not get stuck. And here sadly he has to painfully and slowly kill everything before the screen keeps going, and here he dies again. So you can die, the death comes so quickly in that game, and you lose so much each time you die that you have to, when you learn the game, you have to learn precisely how to handle every single situation, and as soon as you do something in that game, you might change the behavior of the enemies, and sadly you have to adapt and to react quickly. So it is a weird game in speedrunning, but it's way deeper than what might appear, and I really like it in the UD as a game of during UD6, because the runners will have to adapt and react differently in Metal Slug than compared to every other game we have in the UD6. So it is an interesting one. The Mission 3, where Zoff where everyone is probably one of the hardest, if you except for the last one, which is super long, and you have to keep a lot of grenades, and you have to keep your Metal Slug alive for the boss. So it can be tricky.
We've got Keltris working on this boss fight against this guy who is a big problem if you don't know how to deal with him, but if you get close, he will use his knife and you can jump over the knife. It does look like it has a ton of active frames on the animation, but it's actually not too active, particularly in Metal Slug 1. So you can just kind of repeatedly get him in a sort of loop jumping over his knife. Keltris took one death in that fight, but otherwise did a pretty good job.
Sadly, he used a lot of grenades, so he had to work on the tank right after it, and that took a lot of time. Yeah, Zoff finished the boss fight quite nicely, but Sablier did way better job on that mission and actually caught back up, having a lot of grenades and his tank still alive for the boss, allowing him to kill it super quickly. So yeah, nice comeback. Mission 4 is probably the shortest. It's a straight pass to the boss, just having to dodge a couple of hits, jumping on tanks, and yeah, it's pretty good. You need those easy mission. The slug Zoff just took, you just crash it on the bunker right after it. Quickly try not to jump. Jumping goes at least twice as fast as walking. It's insane. So you want to see the runners who jump all the time, but jumping makes your hitbox actually significantly bigger, and you all the time constantly are jumping into a bullet or a grenade. So you want to be sure, if you want to keep a weapon or some grenades, that you are not jumping in front of some enemies, or you will likely die. So usually you just walk a little bit, kill the enemies, and then jump if you don't know exactly what you're doing.
I did not know that it actually changed your hitbox. I did know that it was a good way to get yourself killed, because just for the reasons of being in the air is where everyone tends to shoot and throw their grenades, and you can't duck, of course, in the air. But wow, the hitbox thing, actually, yeah. So there's a big trade-off, just in terms of how often you want to jump.
This is the big moment. Zoff on Mission 5 goes on that street, and you want to be constantly jumping because there are not that many enemies. But if you jump right before like a group of enemies, you might just find yourself dying. You have like a big air control. You can go back and forth in the air and without an issue. But if you're airborne, you are in the air and you are likely to die. So you want to know exactly what you're doing. That boss is the first boss of Metal Slug X. It's pretty funny to see him on the original one. It's a weird boss where it dies after a time. Even if it has, once it reaches 0 HP, which is like he likely is already on Zoph's screen, he will die by himself after a couple of about 20 seconds. It's quite a long time. So you want to shoot as few bullets as possible because it makes the game lag significantly. So you want to kill it exactly, and then just stop shooting and wait for it to die. It's a weird mechanic, to be honest. And we get to the final mission. Zoph in first position, Sadly right behind him, Keltris at the start of mission 4, and Vendel at the second half of mission 4. Vendel and Keltris are going to be better on inertia. Keltris is one of the few runners that ran the game before it really started, so he had that advantage a little bit. Zoph is very good at inertia, also contesting the world record, so it's going to be an interesting second race also.
So Diaz got the shotgun, complete with 30 shots. He's going to be taking the top route through this section. Once you spawn those planes, then you know you're free to drop down and deal with the enemies as you see fit. But if you are on the bottom, when you hit that here, you will actually spawn tanks that are a little harder to deal with. So definitely players want to make sure they're taking the correct route through this part of the last stage. Getting a glimpse of the final boss here for just a little bit on Zoph's screen.
Yeah, that bridge is interesting. You want to keep your bombs, you want to keep your shotgun, you want to go the correct route, especially at the end, because you want all three prisoners there. So you have the one that spawns the shotgun and get as many bullets of as many shots of shotgun shells as possible for the final boss. But keeping your bullets in Metal Slug is quite an exercise, because you have to kill the enemies, so you have to find a way, and it's all a trade-off between going fast now or going fast later, and sometimes there is no good way of doing both of it.
Celia is on top of this gun right now on this gunship, and a lot of these situations when these guys swoop in and these missiles and these bullets, they can seem pretty much impossible to deal with, but you actually get invincibility frames jumping, I think on, but definitely off of the gun. So you can abuse that a little bit, sweep it across, take out as many as you can, use the invincibility frames to get through whatever bullets are on screen, and then clean up the rest as you see fit.
So interesting strat on Zoph's screen. He saved the Metal Slug, so he has it later on, probably for the boss. He tries to keep as many bombs on the ship as possible, because they do not despawn on the Metal Slug 1, committing suicide to come back with 10 bombs here, and he's already at 20 plus 30 plus the Metal Slug. That's a good count, so definitely a safe strat. He did not keep his shotgun alive, and the Metal Slug makes everything significantly slower because of the lag, so it is a trade-off. And here he really don't want to die, because he has 50 bombs now. And I was saying that's the commentary curse here, right there.
That's just how it goes sometimes. To it, you got to point out what the player is going to be worried about, and what the viewers definitely should be worried about. And sometimes that's just what happens. So Zoph is going to be into the final boss fight here. He's actually throwing bombs out of the tank, as well as mixing in some of those cannon shots. See what kind of pattern he gets. Oh, he gets the sweep across. Not what you want.
Yeah, so very few RNG elements in that game, but the boss patterns is definitely going to cause to some time loss, and it's you want to get the correct patterns all the time, obviously. But this one is not. It's hard to dodge with the slug also, so you are going to lose it pretty fast. So yeah, and now it's just a grind, trying not to die.
He ran out of heavy machine gun just as the missiles started falling. So yeah, pretty sure that was a death.
Yeah, I intended one just to get back bombs because anyway, when he sweeps around, you cannot shoot him. So doing that cost time, and that's time for Zoff in about 15 minutes. That's a good run. Sablier, as we can see, had some desync. He's at 14 minutes and 39 seconds. So he had a very, very good run, actually. He seemed behind, but very nice done. About the same time.
It's just kind of throwing his body with these 10 bombs at the boss. This was definitely my classic move in this game. It doesn't work so well when you're actually at the arcades and you're forced to put in a quarter every time you do it. But here we've got the infinite credits, so pay to win.
Arcade cabinets, the original pay to win.
That's right.
But yeah, that's it. Time for Sablier, 15 minutes and 19 seconds. So yeah, close run, and as we saw the runners die quite a lot. Obviously, there was no perfect run, and if you dodge the bullets and try not to die, you will save a lot of time. A lot of those deaths, though, were intentional, just to get back bombs and munitions, so you can keep dealing a lot of damage. That's just 5 quarters. That's not too expensive, actually, to beat Metal Slug. So yeah, nicely done. But the world record is at 10 minutes and 30 seconds, if I recall correctly. And it's an insane time. Sukimos has a lot of world records on all the Metal Slug series, and he's very, very good. He worked very hard on all those games just to get a good understanding on how all the behaviors of all the enemies and what's the routing of the weapons and where it's almost never worth it to die, but sometimes there are some disabuse you want to go for, and yeah, it is a cool speedrun. 10:32. And yeah, as during the UD, because we're all doing mainly races, the timing method is a bit different, and we do start the timer when at the selection of the one player on the menu, compared to the when you gain control of the main character for the speedrun.com category.
So
Metal Slug, sorry.
Well, I'm just going to give a quick update. Vandal, about to start the final boss fight here, is rocking the heavy machine gun just a little bit here, only 39 shots, and a decent number of bombs as well, whereas Keltris not quite in the boss fight and also pretty much completely empty on both guns and bombs.
Yeah, you will get a continue here, get a heavy machine gun and 10 grenades, but you gotta make those work now. There are 20 bombs with those 2 prisoners here. You gotta kill that chopper though, and this one has a lot of HP, so you want to use your grenades, and the hitboxes of the grenades are very generous, and as long as a part of the explosion touches the hitbox of the enemy, they deal damage. So you want to throw the grenades at the missiles the chopper throws at you, and that's the best way to kill. But Keltris did not grab the bombs here. He's probably not confident enough to stay alive during the boss fight, which I can understand. So he's just going for what he can do best, and that's throwing his own body, his own life at the boss and trying to make it work. If you get to the boss with a shotgun and 30 bombs, the boss is about 40 seconds stop. And if you don't, it can last about 2 minutes if you are slow at killing it. So that's probably one of the biggest time save you can go for, is mastering the second half of mission 6. It's going to make a huge difference.
All right, so Vandal's done. Keltris still has a ways to go. If I had to guess, and it is definitely a guess and not based off of too much knowledge, I'd say he's about halfway done with the boss here. The helicopter's exploding a little bit, um, but when you get those patterns like that one, you're just not dealing any damage, so uh, pretty hard to deal with, and also having a bit of trouble with the sort of there's definitely lag when you jump, and I feel like there's also a bit of lag turning around left to right.
Yeah.
Keltris getting caught throwing grenades in the wrong direction, expecting that he was still going to be facing forwards and drifting left. But yeah, that's just one of the things you need to work with when you play Metal Slug.
The game is definitely doing too much work compared to the original console, the Neo Geo. Back in the days, like it's an insane good-looking game for 1990. I want to say 94, but I might be wrong for this one. But yeah, it has definitely some lag, some input lag on both the jumping and the turning around, and you have to get used to it. This is the Steam version, the PC version you can find on GOG and all. It's a good port. You can play multiplayer online. You can it's a bit smoother than the emulated version, so it is a good version to speedrun on. Speedrun.com had to make different categories for each version. You have the PlayStation versions, the Neo Geo version, the arcade version, the PC versions, because all those are quite similar, but still work a bit differently, loading the different missions, the different levels, and all and whatnot. So it's a giant mess, but it's a fun game. And during the UD6, I don't know if you agree with me, but I feel like it's going to be one of those games that are going to be very, very important for during the tournaments, the multi-game tournament, because it may not look like it, but it's going to cost a lot of time, and it's 1 point every 3 seconds, and just one death, one extra death might cost you like a bunch of points if you lost all the grenades you were building off. And it's definitely going to be one of those games you don't want to underestimate if you want to get to the grand finals.
Yeah, with the way that it controls, um, and the rather unforgiving nature of what is a really small mistake, all things considered. Um, I definitely agree that it could be the sort of game that could really swing a larger scale tournament. Definitely a game players should be careful about, um, and it will definitely be interesting to see how that goes. As we're pretty close to revealing all the games. There's one left that we'll be revealing in a couple days, um, and then it won't be too long before we start to get into the decathlons that it makes up the D in UD6, where the players will be playing all 10 games. So uh, these kinds of thoughts, these kinds of strategies and concerns are definitely going to start to come into play.
Yeah, so if you don't know what UD is, as the players are getting ready for the second game of the night, Inertia, so UD is a competition. You gotta learn 10 speedruns in about 6 months. So we are still in the reveal phase where we announce a game per a week. So we got Shovel Knight, Cuphead, A Story About My Uncle, Spectrable, Metal Slug, Inertia, Castlevania Eye of Sorrow, Donkey Kong Country, and Trials 2. We still have the 10th game we are going to announce on this Saturday on Speed Gaming. And after that, we are going into the competitive phase starting the 14th of July, where we are going to doing tournaments, multi-turn tournaments, where every turn we play um, the 10 games in a row, and the best players get to the next turn and we got a bunch of runners eliminated. And just to qualify, the final goal is to qualify for the grand finals that are going to be held live in France. So if you win, if you are qualified, you get to be invited, your travel paid, to speedrun in a movie theater in front of a lot of the UD runners and some just viewers that are interested to see a lot of speedrun, lots of game back to back to back. All those games are very different in genres and how you learn them. We don't want a winner that is specialized, very good at just like platformers. We want like a 2D platformers. We want someone that is good at first person platformers for weird 3D games, physics based game. Trials is a good example of something that is hard to fit in a specific genre. And yeah, it's going to be lots of fun. If you are just interested in the viewing experience, it's going to be way better, way more interesting. You're going to get way more involved starting in July, because seeing all those runners putting all their effort, learning 10 games and seeing who performed the best is going to be quite interesting to me, because so far we are doing just like 1 or 2 games per stream. But as soon as we get to the multi-game tournaments, it's going to be way funnier to me. I really like watching like the players struggle or succeed, and usually they succeed. They're very good at playing different games back to back to back, and switching from DKC to inertia or to middle slug is a skill in itself. Like it's not easy.
Yeah, so certainly in just being able to learn and adapt and speedrun a totally different kind of game than maybe you're used to is one skill. But on race day, being able to put everything you learned into one type of game and then have to switch and play a totally separate kind of game is kind of a different skill set. Um, I don't know what even to call it, really. Your ability to just switch gears, to just mentally throw out everything that you were just doing in that previous game and mentally load everything that you need for the next game, um, is not something that a lot of people that I think will come naturally to most people. So I won't be surprised if once we start really getting into the multi-game events, kind of like we're seeing today, we get a small taste of it. We had, Cuphead, Spectre Ball were both very different games that got grouped together for scheduling reasons, and this week we had Metal Slug and Inertia getting grouped together. So we're seeing a little bit of it, and I anticipate that every time there's a switch, the first couple of minutes maybe are probably going to be a bit shakier than the later half of the run, just because of that time it takes to transition and get back into the groove.
Yeah. But being able to just pick up a game and go for it, and letting the muscle memory handle like the first few levels, just the tutorial phase, and then you get into it, is really really satisfying to me. Like it's very appealing to be able to just getting to the game, and you don't have that much time per game during a season. Like you want to be efficient at learning and practicing and having some good PBs, but also being consistent at the games. So it's definitely a fun experience to me, and that's why we set up the UD that way. And yeah, and that said, you don't want to group, like we really try not to group games that would be mean to put like right next to each other. Like we are going to tear apart a little bit like the two first person games, because going from Inertia to A Story About My Uncle could be a bit difficult, I'd say, because just like the mouse sensitivity and how the character jumps, it's very different. So
We'll have to see. The players, we see Zof is warming up like crazy and
Oh.
the other players opting to not, which I hasn't given how different the games play. It's actually making me nervous that maybe some streams are frozen.
Yeah, I just asked Cyclone to take a look at the setup, so we are going to start up soon. So for the PBs, Zoff is the second best player in the world. His time is 7 minutes and 44 seconds. He is very close to beating the current world record. He is very talented at the game. We got Keltris that is 10th in the leaderboard. His PB is 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Is anything sub 9 is very, very solid on that game. It's you can lose like a lot of time just choking repeatedly on a single level, and usually getting to that sub 9 mark means that you master a lot of the levels and you just did not quite make it in a single run yet. For Sablier, which is very an excellent runner on the overall, like he mastered at quite a high level all the 9 games that are that are in the UD6 so far, except for Inertia, where it doesn't have a simulator time yet. So I don't know. He probably practiced, because I did not force anyone to be on stream today. So we'll see how it goes for him. Maybe it's going to be a first PB. Maybe just practice the individual levels. And for Vandal, same story. I saw he had a time. Maybe he did not submit it yet. So we'll see how it goes. But definitely on the left side of the screens, often Keltris are going to go for crazy strat, and maybe Sully and Vandal are going to demonstrate how it is to start speedrunning Inertia. Did you play a little bit through Inertia casually, Mythical?
No, not yet. I literally bought the game today with the intention to play it later today, and then checked Discord and saw we needed a commentator. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. But I haven't. Pretty much sometime between when we wrap up here and dinner, I'm gonna get a chance to actually play through this, and I don't know how I'm gonna approach it. Usually I like to play a game casually first, and then go back in and speedrun it. But I feel like I would play it so differently compared to the speedrun, and I would maybe even learn like some bad habits that I would need to unlearn to speedrun it. So I'm thinking about maybe approaching it as a speedrun right off the bat, and trying to follow and copy what we're going to be seeing from our players today.
So that's very important. Inertia can be weird and almost bad when you play it casually, because it is a very specific game. It's very precision based, and sometimes it doesn't work as well as you'd want it to. You cannot wall ride on every single wall, for example. You have specific walls you can run on, and the other one, it doesn't work. So going for running the game blind and just casual experience could be very good. It's not a bad game, but you could not like it. The also to be noted is that in the speedrun, the players have the option in the menu of the game to bind on the same key, sliding and jumping, resulting in the jumps are super fast, and you can skip some platforms, and it makes the game smoother and easier. So if you go for like casual play, I would definitely recommend at least to go for the speedrun binds, and then go for whatever. You have tutorials for every single level. You can go for finding your own strat, but I would recommend still to go for the casual speedrun experience with the correct binding, and trying to go fast compared to just trying to beat the level as intended, I would say, and maybe have a worst experience that the game has to offer.
I was wondering because, like, when a player, gets up to speed, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a way to bunny hop and keep speed, um, and some other way. But it also just seemed like players were more or less from a standstill, just running and jumping, and skipping over like several platforms. And I was like, why are those platforms there when you can jump that far? Is it just sort of if you want to take it slow or whatever? But it makes sense now that the
Yeah.
players are doing with the slide jump actually, jumping much further than perhaps originally intended. Well, I feel like it was probably intended to do some of this stuff. It was a game kind of designed with a lot of these mechanics in mind.
Yeah, you definitely can do that casually. Like it's just like the binding the speedrunners use makes it easier. But it's definitely intended. You have a bunny hop mechanic. Like it's called a bunny hop. It's not exactly a bunny hop, but if you chain correctly your jumps, you will gain extra speed each jump. So you can gain a crazy amount of speed. You can strafe like in Doom, where if you hold the direction plus forward, you will go a bit faster. There's definitely a legacy from all the Counter-Strike and Source Engine custom maps just made for using the bunny hop and the crazy speed you can get in the Source Engine platforming. And this is like clearly the inspiration of the game. But it's made a bit easier and more accessible compared to the cased map in CS, where you had like to be an expert in bunny hopping to just clear the maps. So yeah, it's an interesting game, and I got like very keen on watching those grind attempts because it's very short. A single jump can kill you, and there's a lot of anticipation from the viewer because you can see if the jump clearly goes wrong, or sometimes you feel like it's going wrong and you have like actually enough momentum to clear a jump you did not expect. And yeah, it's a good viewing experience to me.
I can't wait to see the players.
Vandal screens still need to be adjusted a little bit. Notified Cyclone, I hope it's going to be done soon, or we'll be starting. The runners are getting impatient, playing in the playground that is the tutorial in that game, just giving you a huge arena so you can play with the all the different things, elements of the game. So you can see the wall running, the sliding, the moving elements, the teleporters, and yeah, just being able to play a little bit with the game. That's a good way of doing tutorials, by the way. It's actually interesting to just see all the things, not like sequentially thrown at you, but all at the same time, and you can try to combine them if you get to understand them. It's pretty cool. Okay, the race is going to start in 2 minutes. The runners are getting too impatient. And yeah, so 32 levels, very, very short ones between, I don't know what the longest one is, but a lot of them are about like 10 seconds long. There is like it's very well done, very speedrun friendly. You have a lot of information on screen. You have a global timer that cut off the loads automatically. You have like an in-game online leaderboard. It's you have like a speedrun mode, as you can see on the player screen. That's what we're going to do today, the speedrun of the standard 32 maps. And yeah, we're going to see how well it goes for everyone. Race is going to start in about a minute. And yeah, obviously that's not the game that is for everyone. But if you want to be, if you want to do well during the UD, you have to deal with anything like we were throwing at you, and the inertia is definitely one of those games where you have to work specifically on your bunny hopping and first-person platforming. So it's not too hard, I feel, but it is certainly very different from all the side scrollers we've seen.
Yeah, it's. I think it's not too hard to do pretty well. But I think if you want to start challenging some of the top times that players have posted for this game, for Eziel has a 2:19. Zof going to be a player to watch right now with a 2:15. Sorry, these are points. Time wise, in game time 7:31, 7:44. These well under 8-minute times. Um, these are not easy to get to, especially in this short amount of time. I wonder, even like Zoff is second on the leaderboard. I wonder what kind of time he's aiming for just in this one-shot race in a game like this.
Okay, let's go. So first level is a straight line, just being able to jump across the gaps. As you can see, a lot of platforms, and if you've got enough speed, you will be able to close the gaps without even turning. Second level, about the same thing, but just a little bit of adjusting. And already you can see a significant difference in speed between the different players, if you are confident enough to land on the platforms or not. And third level is things are getting spicier with now it's the same thing but not in straight line anymore. So you got to be able to jump regularly and consistently. And yeah, it's all about keeping your momentum and your speed as you're turning. And obviously, as soon as you bonk on a wall, or if you don't jump immediately on a platform, you are going to lose a lot of speed. So you want to keep everything going smoothly. As soon as you reach the wide door, the next level starts, so it does not give you a single second to breathe. So that's one of those speedruns where if you are in a run, you cannot read your chat, you cannot even glance at it. You have to keep the focus for like 8 minutes straight and not stop thinking about your platforming. Obviously, it's also one of those games where it's you have to remember as soon as you get to the end what do you need to do on the next level. So a lot of memorization involved there. You have to know if you gotta go straight, when you have to jump. A lot of the starts of all the levels are just a very short platform, and already you gotta jump immediately. So it's a lot of memorization and a lot of muscle memory involved. Obviously, we saw Zuff failing a couple of times in a row in that level. It's pretty easy to, even if we always have a lot of speed and feel like we don't have to land anywhere, having a jump a bit too short happens very fast. You have to. And Zuff, like not making it here, sadly having to restart. You have to know exactly if your speed is enough for you to make it to the next platform, or if you gotta slow down. There's quite a lot of air control, so you can adjust yourself, but you go so fast that it's not too easy. And yeah, if you don't jump, like if you press your spacebar just a little bit too late, you will just fall and die and restart immediately. So you have to be sure to be precise. Sadly, I had a rough start. It's just on the 8th level. You got the level number on the top right of the screens of the player, so it's pretty easy to compare. Zuff does not display it, sadly. It's maybe a little bit cropped too much. Caltris and the completed the first half of the game, and the timers of the runners are in-game time, except for Keltris. Keltris is not a minute and a half behind. I think he just got a real-time timer on screen.
Yeah, it caught me. I was doing some tech work, but pretty sure he is not. Disregard the timers there. We are using in-game time for this game because we want to keep things fair, especially with PC games. Different PCs load faster, and that can throw a wrench in the works. So we are able to use in-game time to measure our competitions and keep things nice and even.
Yeah, so you got the in-game time of Keltris barely visible on the top left of the screen. As you can see, is at 4 minutes and 15 seconds. So it is quite close. The 4:20 mark. That's my. I have that memorized. You should be for very good time at level 20. At the end of level 20 is about 4 minutes and 20 seconds of the run. So Keltris is close to that goal, but like a couple of levels behind, so it's a good start, but we can see on every single runner a lot of restarts. It's pretty easy to make a mistake, just to fall down, fall short. Your hitbox is quite small, and maybe that game lacks a shadow, a spot to tell you where your feet are, because like sometimes it's hard to tell. You are only hands in that game. The hands are here to give you feeling of speed, but you like feet to have sometimes a visual feedback on whether or not you are going to land on the platform you intend to land on. Except that it's pretty easy to understand what's going on. And yeah, Keltris is doing quite well. He's right behind Zoff, just a level behind. So this is an intense race. Level 22 already. But yeah, the world record is like done in a minute and a half. It's a very, very fast-paced game, and a single mistake at the Far's Yell time just cost you the run now. So you cannot make a single mistake. You gotta go fast and never stop.
There are some points where players actually are purposely throwing themselves into a wall just to kill their speed, off to the side. Usually these 90-degree turns. Sometimes the hallways are wide enough that you can do some kind of clever S-turn snaking maneuvers around and keep your speed through them. And sometimes, like we just saw in Zof there's actually a wall run that will do a nice curve and slingshot you around. But in a lot of cases, there's just kind of these narrow hallways. So you just kind of throw your body right there into the wall, kill your speed that's going all the way in the wrong direction, and then start accelerating again in the correct direction. Bit of waiting here for Zof. There's a couple platforms operating on cycles. I'm pretty sure if something goes bad in a level and you reset, the cycles that they're on actually doesn't change. They keep the same place where they were.
The elevators keep going even if you reset. They are not moving until you trigger them, but as soon as you trigger them, they keep on going. So it's pretty punitive sometimes, because you gotta wait for the elevator to come back so you can actually do the stage. So you will just to lose sometimes 20 seconds just to a single platform coming back to its original place. Zof is on level 30. 4 levels ahead of Keltris at level 26. Evendel is at level 21, and Sablier is on level 14. Not surprised. Sablier is a little bit behind. He does not have a PB on the leaderboard yet, so he plays well, but he's not at the still on the grind phase. Evendel on the chat said that he was expecting to go for 15 minutes, so he learned quite well the races. I don't remember the times we had last week on Speed Gaming 2. I will check real quick, because that's what a week gives you. Zof had a 9 minute and 50 seconds. Keltris had a 9 minute and 40 seconds. So we'll see how much they improve. But sadly, that's one of those games that if you just make a bunch of silly mistakes, you are going to lose a lot of time. So 507 seconds for Zoff. That's 8 minutes and 27 seconds. No, that's 9 minutes and 27 seconds.
But
Why would
it's
you
dangerous
give
to
a
do math
try?
on stream.
Yeah, you will be wrong. Oh, that's 8:27. Okay, I
No,
was
yeah, he
right.
said it in chat. Definitely trust the runner who's posting
Yeah,
his own time in chat with the little
nice.
emote of the guy with his hands in the air. 8:27 is a great time. Like I said, Zoph's best time is below that 8 minute mark at a 7:44. So I was wondering, like, he seems pretty happy with an 8:30. It's the kind of thing where grinding out attempts in this game are pretty quick. So um, for whatever your level happens to be, you can produce a fairly optimized run to put up there as part of the grind on the leaderboard. But on race day, you only get the one shot. So it looks like 8:30 is something Zoph is going to be happy with.
For the scoring during the UD, so the games in different lengths has the same weight. We get a score system, and for inertia, it's a point per 3 seconds, so it goes quite fast. You don't want to die too much, but every shorter game is at 3 seconds per point. Same goes for Metal Slug. So they are going to be very, very meaningful in the overall score. But do remember that Donkey Kong Country, being 3 times as long, goes for 9 seconds per point, and is going to be very meaningful as well. So at the end of the day, you gotta be good at all the games. So, but yeah, each time 3 seconds ticks, that's 1 point that goes away. And Caltris at the 32nd level, final level of the game at 10 minutes and 35 seconds in-game time, doing a bit worse than 2 weeks ago, but still managing to beat the game in under 11 minutes. Very well done.
Oh, Vandal just missed a jump to a very, very small platform right there. He is going to get on at that time. He's taking his time to get his bearings on some of these jumps. It is, you may, like, these players are making it look rather easy in terms of just some really basic things of being aware of where you are in 3D space when a platform goes whizzing by somewhere to the bottom right of you. You know, having an idea of where that is behind you is something that just takes a lot of time to learn. So uh, we are seeing some players opt to take a moment to look around and see exactly where everything is and line up their next jump.
Yeah, it may look like the hitboxes are forgiving and it's easy to land on a platform when you see a top runner, but actually you almost are a needle. You have like a very small vertical hitbox, and you gotta land precisely on the platforms, and it's very easy to barely miss a landing and to be just pixel short, and having to start all over again. All the levels are short, but starting a level entirely can be frustrating. And if you start panicking, you might die again and again on the same level. So yeah, it's a good way, and it shows how the learning goes when you see Vandal playing, because it does like some very fast strat, but he does not chain the jumps together very well. He just waits and takes his time to set himself up sometimes, just to be sure, landing and then jumping and then landing. And the game do reward the runners, the players, if they never stop. They give the game gives a bunch of extra speed if you chain your jumps correctly, and that will make also a big difference in the end. So, but yeah, going slowly will definitely give you a good result at the start. And then once you're confident enough in your platforming and how the game plays, you will be able to chain the jumps together faster and faster until you never stop.
Sadly, yeah, is in one of these outdoor levels. I assumed that the obvious play here was just to land on top and run around the outside of the level. Um, and then watching the players, it seemed pretty clear that you can't actually land up there. But then I watched one run where actually you can. I think you can just kind of get on the little bit of a ledge there that we're seeing from Sable. Yeah.
Yeah, but the game pushes you. It has like that one small exploit, but you have actually like invisible walls above the level. The one the game is almost glitchless, except like the ceilings in the game that get you stuck and kill your speed and do weird thing with you. So you want to avoid ceilings at as much as possible. So if you do jump too high, and you will end up losing a bunch of speed and killing um, all your efforts. But except for that, very few exploits, um, except once again binding the jumping and the sliding on the same key, so you can gain a bunch of speed each time you jump. Also, with the bunny hopping and the strafing, if you press at the same time forward, left, and right, and if you go at an angle and keep shaking your mouse, you do gain some speed also. So if you do watch the IELTS records on speedrun.com, every single level done by it's the same. Of course, his name. I forgot his name, but
No.
very talented runner. Let me check real quick. But you will see that he's shaking constantly his camera just to gain some speed. So yeah, big shout out to Nordenix, very talented Swedish runner, and that just did all the IELTS and is like maybe 3-4 seconds faster than everyone. So during the UD, we have a cutoff that we are not enforcing during the community races. But for inertia, it's actually 13 minutes and 30 seconds. So it is rough. It is a tough one. So you want to be exactly sub 13:30. If you do not do that, you will be awarded 0 points. So it's not, and the ceiling got stuck sadly, as I was saying. The ceilings are terrible in that game. I hope you get unstuck somehow. But you are not eliminated. But obviously, having no point on a race is going to probably kill you. So, well, not literally, but I hope you got what metaphorically. I hope
Your
you got what I
tournament
mean.
life has
Yeah,
maybe just ended if you're not able to post above that 100-point mark. And we've seen most of the games so far, and from what I know of game 10, which I think is going to be very vague, far too vague to possibly give it away early, is that I think it's going to be one where players are not going to be struggling to get over the 100-point mark. The top players, that is, certainly. Definitely, we've had some players who are newer to UD, if not speedrunning entirely, and there will definitely be some games where players would very much be challenged to get over 100 points within the relatively small amount of time that they've had to learn all these games. But I think for our top players, the guys who are going to be, in the running for the grand finals and all that, I think we are going to be seeing well over 100 points from them. Though it will come down to maybe it's 200 points that everyone is aiming for on race day. It's hard to say. I maybe am asking a lot from our runners.
For some games, yeah. For some other, I feel like that's what we're going to see. For inertia, for example, Zoff with his 8 minutes and 40 seconds and 20 seconds he got today is at the 200 mark. So that's very good. He's actually at 204. So yeah, you can pass the 200, and a lot of runners are going to make it. But being able to beat all the 10 games in at over 100 points is already like a decent challenge. It is a good one for anyone that wants just to speedrun casually, that has never speedrun, or just want to take the UD for fun. But and I do encourage you to join us just to do that. I still have to do that myself. But yeah, if you want to compete and to get to grand finals, it's not going to be enough, I feel, because yeah, we are. So this is the second to last Thursday community race during the revealing phase. Next week, we are going to have the Thursday community race for the game 10. And then we are going to have a team tourney just for fun, just to have like a nice, fun event before the competitive tourneys of July. And I don't know what we're going to do during the Thursday. We could do fun relay races or just preparation races for depending on what the community wants during the Thursdays. So we'll see, but definitely the skill level is going to go up one notch starting in July the 14th, because all the runners that are going to want to qualify are going to have to be able to go back to the 10 games. For some runners, I know Shovel Knight is a long time behind now, because we announced it right at the start of UD6, so that's about 9 weeks ago. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how fast the runners do pick the games back up. If you just learn the game during a week and you forgot everything about it, it's going to be interesting.
At least for games like Shovel Knight and Aria of Sorrow, the first two games revealed, 7, 8 weeks ago now, is probably the last time most of our players have played them. They are very, there's a lot of cues. And also they're very pixely games, so that you can look for your exact pixel that is your cue. This was the pixel where I jump, and this was the one where I attack, and this is where I pogo, and this is where I need to stand to manipulate the soul drop from Aria of Sorrow. So the memory of where those are might be gone when you first pick up the games again. But once you find them, I think everything will kind of click into place in a nice way. The games that I think are really hard to go back to are things like Trials and Spectra Ball, and I think Inertia would be, though it is pretty late here, so they'll be at least a little fresh compared to some of those other ones. So I would say Spectra Ball is going to be something that players will go back to and be like, oh, this skip that I used to be able to do before pretty easily is now giving me quite a bit of trouble, and I think that could trip people up, and that's another short game. So every little mistake, 3-second mistake will cost you a whole point. So that could be an important game. It's hard to say. I'm really looking forward to seeing how things develop. But I think I'm honestly maybe more looking forward to some of this fun stuff coming up that you were talking about in the next couple of weeks after we're done revealing games, and before we get into start knuckling down into the real nitty-gritty competitive decathlon stuff.
Yeah, this is like a lot of the runners in the UD are actually in for the community events, and rather than the super competitive aspect of it. So the team races are specifically very well received usually by the community. So I'm going to try to follow the schedule of the Saturday, Sunday, and Thursday streams on Speed Gaming, and restreaming that, and trying to have the best team on screen. So how it's going to work is every team is going to, of 5 runners, is going to nominate runners per game, and we're going to do 1 game per race. And the points you do for your team, well, that's how well your team is doing for that race. And then we add up all the 10 results at the end of the 5 streams we're going to do, and the best team win. The important part is each player of the 5 runners team has to do exactly 2 races, and you do not know beforehand what game are going to be selected. So it's going to be 5 different games out of the 10 games in the UD, and we do reveal the games one per one 24 hours before the race. So if you have one guy that is very good at like 2 or 3 games, do you wait for him to get his very good games, or are they never going to come up? So you have to do like some um, team decisions and like trying to get all together and to get better, like to manage your forces and weaknesses all together. So it's a good way to learn the game. And that's time for Sablier in barely sub 24 minutes. As I was saying before the race started, Sablier did not have a PB recorded yet, so this is maybe his first completed run. So congrats to him. He did stick with it, and yeah, he just can improve from that. He definitely had some very good strats going on some levels, and some levels he still needs to practice or even to learn. So yeah, a lot of more races and stuff is coming for UD6.
It was a nice look at um, just how hard the game actually is compared to what someone like Zoth maybe makes it look like. You can see Sablia doing, executing on pretty much the same strategy in a level, particularly when if you miss a jump early on and you reset and you get to see him try that same section multiple times, where it looks like he's doing pretty much the same thing, approaching his jump at the same angle with the same speed, but not quite landing on those platforms that seem so easy to land on when you watch a really high-level runner. You get an idea of just how hard it is, how small they really are, and it was definitely starting to come together a little bit on some of those levels for Sabliaz. So a bit more time in the lab to iron those things out, and this 23-minute time is going to drop like crazy.
So during the stream, we had about 9 runners. We could only stream 4 of them. Devil Tifa once again did very well on both Metal Slug and Inertia. Last week it did not. We streamed his races, and it did not know Inertia so well. So a good week on Inertia gave him 189 points. Very well done. Zoff did fantastic with 200 points on Inertia. So very, very nice runs. We got Sogi Tootst, very good runners on Inertia, and that also did 18 minutes on Metal Slug. Congrats to him. Keltris did very well and got 4th place. And big shout out to all the other runners: Sablier, Vandal, Sumpf, Zigwigwi, and Sarek.
So that's going to do it for our fun little community race here. We got a second look at both Metal Slug and Inertia. We're going to be back on Saturday, and we'll both be back. Thursday's an anomaly for me, but it's been fun to do to do one of these. And I'm looking forward to Saturday, where we get into our first. It's the tournament format of things, but it is still for fun. It's not going to count towards qualifiers or grand finals or anything like that. So I think we call it the learning tournament. Players still in the learning phase. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you liked it. So see you on Saturday for some more Metal Slug Inertia, and of course the reveal of the 10th game is going to be an important emotional moment for a lot of the runners, because if you liked the 9 games and you dislike just the 10s, it's going to be very tough for you. I hope it's going to go well and very well for everyone involved. All the runners. And of course, if you want more infos, you have the exclamation mark UD for all the link related to the UD. And for speed gaming, I do not know what's coming, but I do guess a lot of ALTCP.
A Link to the Past randomize certainly is
always the good guess.
It's starting to get down to it, though. We're getting into top 64, so it's starting to thin out a little bit, and we're starting to get a little more balance in terms of stuff we got on the channel, like, for example, Luigi's Mansion should still be in progress on Speed Gaming 4, and Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze might be done, but if it's not, that's happening on Speed Gaming 3. A Link to the Past on 5 and 1. Actually, 5 I think got canceled. So on 1, the main channel. And if you stick around here for about a half hour, you'll see some Final Fantasy 1 randomizer. So that's what's going on in the near future here on the Speed Gaming Network. So me and you will be back Saturday.
Yeah.
Inertia, Metal Slug, UD6 continues, Game 10. Can't wait. Hope to see all you guys there.
Ouais.